Reciprocity. Zigong asked, "Is there a single concept that we can take as a guide for the actions of our whole life?" Confucius said, "What about reciprocity? What you don't like done to yourself, don't." Confucius, the Analects, chapter 15, verse 24. The war in Gaza is deeply troubling. It leaves us with a profound sense of hopelessness. Not that it won't end, though it feels like it might not sometimes, nor that divine energy is not swirling around the minds, bodies, and souls of all those involved, but that we don't know what to do about this endless circle of violence. It seems like such a blatant detour from the golden rule: do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Reversely, my mother used to say, "Do not unto others." And I found that curious. Why would there be two tenets, do unto and do not unto? Perhaps it was a transliteration or a linguistic shift as the Bible adapted to new languages. But as we see from the invitatory and the responsorial, my mother was correct. The do-nots precede the do's by some 500 years. Not that there's anything wrong with the golden rule. We should do unto others as we would have them do unto you, from Luke chapter 6, verse 31. But it does seem to have a limited reach. The class I was going to teach at MetaFest this year was AMC, Awareness, Mindfulness, Consciousness, an interactive exploration of the differences between them that I see as concentric circles or spheres. Briefly, awareness is the experience that we are of God, that we too are God energy. This is a common knowing among us, and most likely the sensation that drove many of us to metaphysics in the first place. God is inside as well as outside. Mindfulness, among other things, is the expansion of that knowing to include others. The easy knowing of this is loved ones, family, friends, pets, our congregation, maybe even our community, state, or nation. It's being mindful that there is God energy in others as well. But consciousness is harder. Consciousness is an awareness of God in all things. All things. Yet we as evolving humans will eventually bump up against a membrane where this truth no longer holds, the place where our knowing stops, where all doesn't really mean all. Maybe it's how a country behaves, or a violent act, a stubborn mind, or a selfish politician. Our consciousness just can't accept that they too might be of God. It's too fringe, too far, too alien, too other. However, I'm coming to see this not as a failure of our hearts and minds, and certainly not of divine law, but I'm coming to see it as the frontier of consciousness, the current boundary, not a wall of forever despair as the media might portray. No, on the frontier, we honestly do not know what to do. And the problem with do unto others on the frontier of others is that it can easily be interpreted as an eye for an eye, so often cited as justification for violence, as in Leviticus 24. And a man who injures his countrymen as he has done, so it shall be done to him. An eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. The problem is that the golden rule is often twisted into the golden rule of revenge, where a temporal view of morality overrides the larger code of ethics. Morality is a societal set of rules of behavior. They're liquid, mercurial, and change within every society. What we might deem morally reprehensible might be a standard practice in another culture. Morality is not universal. So what do we do in this mercurial state of morality? Conflicting do unto others. Who's right? Israel, Hamas, Democrats, Republicans, the federals, the states, originalists, reformists. Clearly, we as a people are trying to figure this out. But we are on the fringe of our collective consciousness, and it's exhausting and overwhelming. Zhigong asked, is there a single concept that we can take as a guide for the actions of our whole life? Confucius suggests that the key at the edge of consciousness is not in the positive actions we should take, but in the non-action, the negative space. The place where we really need to practice the golden rule is not a state of doing, but of being. A place where we just hang out in the unknowns. The negative space is not bad, as even some New Thought leaders overuse the word as an adjective. I mean it here as a noun, like the positive and negative charge of an electrical current. The membrane, the edge of consciousness, is not destructive, simply uncharted territory, the unexplored, where we simply do not yet know our knowing. And here in the unknown, the raw, the difficult, there really is only one rule. Do not do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Inaction at least doesn't foster violence or create a cycle of unintended consequences. Inaction is not weak or feminine or anti-national or liberal or any other term that might be attached to it. It is the wisdom not to know. Ask the hard, cutting-edge, boundary-pushing questions and await for the greater truths to emerge from the deep. It is a surrender of human morality to the more inclusive truth of ethics, where ethics is the awareness that there are multiple moralities, not a moral right. Instead of accusing cultures that they may have lost their moral compass, perhaps we should consider the greater ethical compass, because reciprocity means to mutual benefit, not exclusivity or the destruction of the other, an eye for an eye. Confucius tells us to wait in inaction, the negative space, the unknown, until a mutually agreeable ethical truth presents itself. That is how we slowly expand the boundaries of our consciousness. So a big shout out to Zhigong for prompting Confucius in the first place. To get a pearl of wisdom, we too should be like the brave diver and plunge into the profound questions. We cannot solve Ukraine, Gaza, climate change, political polarization, but as we await the answers from the deep, the least we can do is do no harm. And when it's too exhausting, turn off the flow of news, retreat from the front and the frontier of consciousness, and turn back into the mindfulness for those near and dear, or into the awareness of the divine within. Though we are pushing the boundaries of human evolution, we do not have to live there full time. Fortunately, the lessons inherent in our acronym AMC are the tools that provide a balance between all three mindsets: awareness, mindfulness, consciousness, and are literally propelling our spiritual progression forward. Many blessings to all of you.